Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Ben Backus.
And I'm Kevin Paulin, and welcome to the Falling Up Podcast, where we have conversations about turning obstacles into opportunities. And on today's show, we have the pleasure of being joined by Mr. Earl Bloodworth. Earl is the current Director of Reentry Services in the city of Bridgeport, Connecticut. And we have an amazing conversation about how Earl went from the corporate world into the human services world and all the impact that he has in the city of Bridgeport and throughout the state of Connecticut. So we touched on a lot of different things. A lot of jewels was dropped, and this is one of those episodes that I'm really excited about. It touched a chord in my heart, and I know it'll touch a chord in yours. So without further ado, welcome to the Falling Up Podcast. So, can you walk us through the journey of becoming director of reentry at the city of Bridgeport and with the program Myra?
Myra, yeah, the
Yeah.
Mayor's Initiative for Reentry Affairs. Um, Man, that journey was super wild. I mean, because I'm coming from a corporate background. Originally, up until 2014, I was working at Verizon Wireless as a project manager in their call center in Wallingford. And they shut it down, and they were like, we'd like to have you stay with us, but you would have to move to like Utah or Ohio, or there was some spot in Georgia and some spot in Maryland, and that
Wow.
just wasn't gonna work. So it didn't happen. And right at that point, actually, my wife had just finished medical school, and or medical, so all her medical training. She had been out of medical school. She started medical school when our son was like in first grade, and she finished when he graduated high school.
Wow.
So yeah, that was a journey. And then he had graduated, and so it was like, oh wow, now I get to figure out what I want to do when I grow up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
She was in medical school, he was going through school, so the main focus was raising him. And so I got some time to kind of collect myself and figure out what that kind of looked like a little bit. They gave us a nice severance package, so did some traveling, did a lot of volunteer work in my community, and started working with my alder person in the community in the ward that I lived in, and then soon became a co-chair in my ward. And then, yeah, it's funny 'cause I remember my son saying, "Dad, you're home less without having a job than you were when you had a job." And yeah, I guess it's like that when you're not employed and you're trying to figure stuff out and find, what your lane is. Because I didn't necessarily want to go back into corporate. Had been there, done that, and then I ended up going to utilizing some of the programs out in the community. I was on the boulevard a lot over there at the job center, and
Okay.
just also with the volunteering, talking to people, and I ended up applying for this job in the state capitol, and I got it, and I became the information officer for an agency that's no longer around anymore. It's been absorbed and combined into multiple agencies, but it was the African American Affairs Commission. And basically, they were a nonpartisan agency that worked with both sides of the legislature to determine if the impact of legislation on the African American community in Connecticut.
To see if it actually worked.
See if it actually worked, see if it was negatively impacting, just different things. You provided them information on different things. And then I think more to the point of your question, I started working on a awareness campaign around a law that had been passed like back in the mid 90s. And it really this is kind of what happens with some laws. They pass laws, and people are happy that the law got passed, but they don't put any money or funding behind it. So it's just really an empty law. It's a law with no teeth. And this law was the Alvin Penn law, which was a law that was focused on racial profiling. Alvin Penn was a state senator from Bridgeport, and he was tired of getting pulled over and racially profiled. And so him, along with some other folks at that time in the delegation and Bridgeport and other places, they crafted this bill that stated that any stops in the state of Connecticut had to be reported in a certain way, so that they can find out if indeed people were being racially profiled. And it just so happened in the confluence of that time of me taking that job and taking on that task, there was a lot going on. The bill had gotten some new interest and gotten beefed up. And at that time, that agency was like, with me being added, it was 4 people in that agency. And which is crazy because that agency was supposedly tasked with collecting all of the traffic stops from every police department and every state police department and municipality in the state. And there was no way that they could do that. They was just woefully honest. Even the position that I got, it hadn't been filled in like 4 years. So up until I got there, it was like only 3 people there. So there's no way in hell that they could do that at all. But it got.
You think it was set up that way?
Huh?
Was it set up that way to not push the bill?
I think so. I mean, I don't think it wasn't. They weren't originally charged with that responsibility, but somehow they got charged with that responsibility. But I don't think the bill was set up for success at all. And that happens a lot of times with some bills. That's why it's not enough just to engage people to vote. You have to engage people to be engaged. The constituency has to be engaged, and you have to hold your legislatures accountable. You can't just say, "Oh, I voted and I did my." No, you have to be engaged. You have to be mobilized at all times. So it got more interest and got funding, and they put that data collection in the control of IMRP over at Central Connecticut State University. And then I started working with them, and I built a campaign awareness around that, and we did some community forums. And it just so happens that like at that time there was this crazy traffic stop in North Carolina where the black man was running and got shot in the back, and the officer tried to lie. And so you had that going on. And then you had also, at that time, was the first time they were looking at the data, the number crunchers over at Central Connecticut State University. And so what we did what I devised was a forum in the cities that the data showed, where there was a lot of racial profiling. And what they found in some of the data at the time was that in, say, like a lot of residents from Hartford were getting pulled over in Wethersfield. A lot of residents in New Haven were getting pulled over in Hamden. And so what I did was convene the forum, and we had the police chief of Hartford and the police chief of Wethersfield come in, along with some other folks that had a vested interest and had some expertise in what was going on. And they went pretty well. The Wethersfield chief of police wasn't very happy, but he called me later and said I was fair. I think he just got fired in like 2020 or 2021.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, because they were really racial profiling a lot of people. And then they had that incident where a young man got shot by the police in Wethersfield. But when we did that forum, that was like in 2015. So it took from 2015 to 2021 for people to recognize that what's going on here is crazy.
Yeah, this is the culture.
It was just it's the East Coast, and and specifically New England. They call it the land of steady habits. So things tend to change slowly, but they say, or Fab said, slow progress is better than no progress.
No doubt.
I guess.
So
coming from a corporate background, right, and making this transition. What would you call it? Kind of, is it human services or it's politics, advocacy? What's I don't know why I'm just using it.
The lowest common denominator would just be public service.
That's the word.
Public service.
That was the umbrella topic I was looking for. Coming from working big corporations, kind of corporate America, going into public service, was there this intrinsic calling for you to join this? Was this something that you were really passionate about? Was it something that you had given thought to prior to this? Or was it just, hey, this is an opportunity and I showed up and all of a sudden I began to really love it? Or like, how do you conceptualize that?
It's funny. Growing up, my mother was very public service oriented. And I ran from that as much as I possibly could.
What did that look like?
Man, listen. My mother was always out there. She was just saving people, doing things, recognizing people, doing the stuff to let people know that they mattered and they were valued. That took the form of recognizing that there were some kids that probably never left out of the city of New Haven and bringing them on trips with us. A lady next door, getting her involved, this older lady named Miss Boatwright, getting her involved and coming to church with us and making sure she had food, and taking my brand new roller skates and giving them to this kid across the street and giving me some skates that sparked on the ground that she found in a giveaway on the street somewhere. Like, that was my mom. So yeah, I guess it was in there, but at the time I was focused on the family. I had a son to raise, wife was in medical school, it was really kind of only one income, my income. So there was a lot going on. Like, that whole journey, like we met in college, we got pregnant in college. She got pregnant. I kind of assisted.
Right.
Yeah. So we were in college, like, that's another thing. My mom, helped us finish. She took our son for the last 2 years so we can finish school, graduate. Graduated, came home. We were both, my wife and I were both first gen college students, so we had no clue about properly preparing ourselves to exit school. We lived in my mother's attic for like 3 months after graduating college. Was on welfare. My wife worked at Stop and Shop. I got a job selling speakers and stereos, and I'm not knocking it because it helped, and we survived. But
no doubt.
But
that wasn't what you envisioned.
Yeah, that wasn't. They say go to college, and you figure stuff out, and that wasn't necessarily our path directly figuring stuff out, because it's like the main thing was to get into college. They don't tell you, or at that time they didn't tell you how to stay in college and fully be successful and fully form yourself.
Or why even go to college?
Or why even go to college and stack up all that debt?
It's one of the greatest misconceptions ever. To think about the amount of people that go to college for the sake of going because that's what they've been told to do, but with no plan. And then the only outcome is, hey, I'm going to find debt. If I get somewhat lucky, I might find a good connection or something. But what am I going to do with that connection, and what am I going to do with the skill? It becomes a slippery slope.
It's a crapshoot, man. Yeah. I think stuff has gotten somewhat better. Our son ultimately ended up going to the same university that we went to, but we still knew people there, so he was better off. We had a game plan for him and kind of try to help him navigate it. But just like most kids, and myself included, even though we gave him a blueprint, he was like, I'm gonna do it this way.
Yeah.
So but he's figuring stuff out and he's doing well. But man, college is not for everyone. In fact, it's funny, when we took our son up there and ran into a gentleman that helped myself and my cohort kind of survive while we were there. He's like, man, I don't know how you guys survive. It was a jungle out there. Like now, my son is going there, and he's like, they have learning communities. Oh, you're interested in this? Well, come here and live in this dorm with all these folks that are interested in this, and we have these connections. And I'm like, what the hell? Man, listen, it was crazy. I was like, this is amazing. Like, we were out there in the wilderness, man.
Listen, I know the feeling. Where you go?
UConn.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, well, that's how my brother went to Central. Then I found my brother, and then that's when my brother met Ty.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? That's how that whole started. So
Okay.
So we was at Central. That sounded like Central back then. Like,
oh yeah, it was the wilderness. PWI was the wilderness, man. We was out there like 40 days and 40 nights. Like Moses and the people, we was just we was figuring it out, man.
For real.
Like,
just surviving.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
So when you were filling out the guest questionnaire, one of your lines was they're finding out that there's many paths to success.
Indeed.
And what you just mentioned, I think, really reflects that or states that.
Yeah.
That, hey, there are all these different ways. When did it did it ever become clear, like, hey, this is the thing I want to do, that this is my mission, this is my calling? What did that look like?
Yeah, so one of those things is finding that path. You have to recognize some perseverance, first of all, in that. And then working at that state agency, putting those forums together was something that really keyed me in. Because not only were we looking at racial profiling, we were looking at the school to pipeline prison. I was like reaching out and calling different experts about different things. So yeah, that really opened my eyes. And I liked doing it. I was out in the community. I was talking to people. I was reaching people. In some instances, I was helping people, I guess when it hit was at the end of the legislative session, 6 months into having that job, I was informed that I no longer had a job and I had been cut off the budget. And so, I had to start figuring some stuff out again. I was like, well, damn, I really like doing that. And I don't want to go back to corporate. And I found myself actually substitute teaching at my old middle school, which was wild. And I was like, damn, were we this bad as kids? And my middle school originally was 5th through 8th, but now it had transformed into like kindergarten to 8th grade. And I was going a couple of days and they liked me and it was like, just come here every day. We don't call in. I was like, well, cool. And I ended up getting a steady gig for like 3 or 4 months. Unfortunately, a teacher went out and I just took over a class and it was 7th and 8th grade social studies. And working with the kids was great. And then I got, that held me over and afforded me an opportunity until I made it to New Haven, city of New Haven, working with Dr. Martha Okafor and a project that she was working on with the Second Chance grant that they had gotten from the Department of Justice for the program, the Warren Kimbrough Reentry Project or program, whichever you want to call it. We called it WKRP, and if you're old enough, you'll understand what that means. But that was what we affectionately termed it, and it was great. The model, which I still wholeheartedly believe in, is to work with individuals prior to them getting out of prison. You want to work with them at least 90 days at the very least. But we were able to get folks that were coming out anywhere from 6 to 12 months and start building that rapport, working with them, doing an assessment, putting a blueprint together, and working with them as they were returning back into the community. And so my role was managing 3 community-based organizations with their case managers conducting and going inside the prison to do assessments and providing resources prior to them getting out with a plan. Because even when you come out with a plan, just like you said, there's not always going to be a perfect path. You can plan for stuff as an individual being released from prison, but when you get out, everything that you kind of imagine the landscape being may be completely different. The person you were going to live with is now not gonna let you live with them, or you go live with them and they're into stuff that's not conducive for your success or to your supervision with parole or probation or whatever. So many different things can, impede. And just with that kind of comparison, life is not that different from anyone. Like, an individual come out of prison, a person like me who just lost my job, you think life is gonna, be one way, or you plan and try to prepare for it to be this way, and then things change. And you make, it's all about the choices and decisions that you make. You are those decisions and those choices. And I think sometimes people, they may make a poor decision or a poor choice, but they shouldn't have to pay for that for the rest of their lives. And I think that intrigued me. And understanding too that there, but for the grace of God go I. So
I love that you steered it back to that piece right there, because while you were talking, I was really thinking, man, you got essentially forced out of this corporate job, right? Because you didn't want to move,
right.
And then you get this job that seems like you're becoming passionate about, feeling like you're making a positive difference, and then one day it's not there.
Yep.
How, in thinking how you were able to actually overcome that, what was that process like? Was there a moment where it's like, man, I just want to crawl in the fetal position? Or was it straight to, hey, everything happens for a reason? What was how'd you do it?
Yeah, that's it, man. Everything happens, and it's much like it's much like playing spades. You gotta work with the hand that you're dealt. Sometimes you get a 10 hand, and sometimes your partner asks you what you got. You got bored of it. And you gotta work it out, man. Like, for real. Like,
yeah, already.
You gotta figure it out, man. I remember, being in college, is a lot of survival tactics. But I remember going to this gentleman who had access to funding, and he was just like, "Yeah, he looked at me at one point. He didn't think I was going to graduate. I almost didn't graduate. And in fact, I will say this, and I tell my son this all the time. He saved my life because I was about to flunk out, man. The GPA was horrible. Oh my goodness. My son came and changed my entire life. And then I remember talking to this guy. He's like, man, you just showed such stick-to-itiveness. And you just, and perseverance. You just gotta have it. Otherwise, no. There's no crawling up in a fetal position. I got a wife. I got a kid. No,
it's not an option.
It's not an option.
Yeah, word.
Yeah, it's not an option. You got to figure something out, man.
I want to say something. I'm gonna take a couple steps back, but I gotta say this, right? So the WKRP, Warren Kimbrough, and rest in peace to my guy Morris Moreland. Our first ever meeting. So Ben's one of the co-founders of Winning Ways, right?
Okay, I did not know that. Oh,
yeah, so it's three of us. Our first ever meeting ever representing Winning Ways with Morris Moreland, right? And Morris Moreland, we super new. We naive. We don't know what's going on. We in college, everything, and Morris gave us some advice on basically get right and come back, right? Couple weeks later, I hear from Warren. I'm about to say that's Warren, Mr. Moreland, and he's like, you should come check this out. It was at if I'm not mistaken, it was at Gateway.
Yeah. I got that picture.
Yo,
yeah.
I'm working at Columbus House. Winning Ways is not even a year. Like, we don't have no logo, no nothing, right? We don't even got 501c3 at the time. I go in there, and it's that first meeting y'all had. All the parole officers, everybody, the whole city in there. Allison Cunningham, everybody's there. Emerge, everybody, the whole city. And I'm in there just sitting there like, yo, I don't think I'm supposed to be here.
Nah, you were where you were supposed to be.
And that's exactly what, because I hit Mr. Moreland up a couple days later, like, man, I think I was at the wrong meeting. He's like, nah, that's what you're supposed to be. If you're gonna do this, then you got to see how it moves.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And if you look at that picture,
to the left corner, you're gonna see me standing in the back cheesing.
Wild. That's wild.
Because they had the breakout things and all that. Yeah. So
that's super wild.
Yeah, I was there, bruh. And Mr. Moreland, man, man, like he taught me so much, man.
That is a good dude. That was one of the CBOs that we had a case manager with there.
Oh, Project Moore.
Yeah, Project Moore.
Yeah. Our MOU with Project Moore is because of him. You know what I'm saying? I'm forever grateful to him. But yeah, man, when you saying that, I'm just thinking of that picture, bro. That first
so crazy,
meeting, man. Yeah. I know I switched gears, but I had to share that.
All
you
good.
feel me?
That's wild. I had no clue. You just see how things come full circle.
Because it was like, what is it, auditorium room or something?
Yeah. Everybody was standing up at the top.
Yeah.
Wow.
In the back corner, you go see that picture tonight.
Yeah, I'm gonna look at that. That's super crazy.
Yeah, man. But that's one of those things. I never forget that day. Because I never seen that, like, that project, a program, like you said, however, like, I wish it was still going. Because that was like...
Dr. Okafor was so amazing.
I met her.
She had stuff mapped out to take place for the city of New Haven. Like, politics meant nothing to her. It was just all about helping the people.
Yeah, because I'm not gonna say it can't happen again. Let me not put that in the universe. But I can't recall anything where everybody was in one room. Everybody,
no silos.
Nah, and that's how Connecticut.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Reentry. That's how it worked. It's just unfortunately it'd be.
We're trying to eliminate those silos with the reentry collaboration. All the reentry roundtables kind of working together. But it's a lot going on, and we're better collaborative than not.
Well, it's one problem.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
It's everywhere. Everybody knows somebody that's been, locked up. I know when we did the first day of dignity up at the state capitol. I want to say we did that in 2017 or 2016. With all the reentry roundtables trying to get people up to the state capitol, and I think we ended up getting like close to 300 people up there, so they can meet with their legislatures and tell their stories and talk to folks. Much like a lot of like the gun lobbyists or the second right people. The floors in the state legislature, they be filled from top to bottom with these folks. A lot of our folks have never been there.
Right.
And like what we found out when we brought the almost 300 people up there, probably 80 to 90% of the people had never been to Hartford at the state capitol, at the General Assembly building. And it was crazy. And I mean, similar to my story, like I had never been there until I was in college. And they were talking about cutting funding, and my director of the African American Cultural Center at the time, Dr. Willina Kempson Price, she brought me there to speak with my legislature, who I had no clue who this man was. I'd never been to the General Assembly building. I think I was probably like 18 or 19. Never dawned on me that this building is where people make laws that impact my life every day. And meeting Senator Dyson, that was wild because he knew my whole family. Like he taught my sisters and brothers. He was like,
that's the guy too.
Yeah, Dyson, major. He was one of the people that helped get funding for the Alvin Penn law, which got it into the hands of the statisticians and the data people over at Central Connecticut State University. If it wasn't for him, it would still been languishing with no teeth. So, I mean, just think about in the news recently about the thing they found where tickets were being falsely generated against people.
Yeah, I seen that.
Yeah, that because of the Alvin Penn law, that's how that data is found out. That stuff like that. It's super crazy how everything just comes back around full circle. But your original question, how did I get into Bridgeport? And basically what you were just talking about, how WKRP was, it ended, unfortunately. Dr. Okafor left, unfortunately. And the drive and the momentum just unfortunately wasn't there without her. She was like the heart and soul of everything happening with that project and program and other stuff in the city of New Haven, as far as the welfare of some of the citizens and the residents. And I had to find another place to go, which brings me back to another story. When I first got that job in New Haven, I ended up getting interviewed on on NPR. And I was there, and the other guest was Mayor Ganem. He had just got out and just won his reelection. And, lo and behold, a few years later, I applied for a job for the city of Bridgeport, and boom, I'm working with Mayor Ganem, and his he birthed the Mayor's Initiative for Reentry Affairs upon his re-election, and I'm running it.
How did that come into existence? What was the thought process, the influences, all of the...
I think between Mayor Ganem and several of the council people in the city of Bridgeport who had records, one being Ernie Newton, he had been a senator for the state. He had been a state representative. He was actually part of the delegation to help get the Alvin Penn law passed. So all of this stuff is like interconnected in full circle. And they thought there should be, especially with a second chance mayor, there should be a second chance department in the city of Bridgeport. It's the biggest city in the state, and they get a lot of folks that come home for reentry, and that's they figure something out. And
what's the goal of the program?
So we're not direct services. What we do is try to provide some support and direct connections to resources in the city, and also kind of overseeing some of the quote unquote reentry programs in the city, make sure they're doing what they said they were doing. Reentry became a really hot topic, and everybody kind of jumped in it, but everybody's not actually in it doing what they're supposed to be doing, what they say they're doing.
100%.
And so, it was, I think, so I was the third person, director of reentry for the city of Bridgeport, and kind of helped formalize the vision. The things that I was keyed on trying to do, I had basically a 5-year plan that COVID both inhibited and then also accelerated at the same time. So I had
now
all
I'm
these,
curious.
So I got there and I wrote these kind of goals down that I wanted to achieve, provided that I'm there in this time frame of 5 years. And I was like, I want to, have a reentry welcome center. I want to hire some more employees. I want to have, I want to get this ID thing figured out for folks. And so COVID slowed things down quite a bit. Weren't able to get into the prisons like we wanted to, but we did get a grant at the time for working with parents that are incarcerated and their children out in the community. And one of the other things that we did do, we got a grant from the United States Conference of Mayors, and that was to help pay for documents like birth certificates and IDs. And it just so happens that I found out at the time that I had a relationship, unbeknownst to me, but I had a relationship with the then commissioner of the Department of Motor Vehicles. And I leveraged it and got a meeting and a phone call, and it took a year, but then we signed an MOU with the Department of Motor Vehicles and got an agreement to fast track IDs for individuals coming out of prison. So that was a pretty good accomplishment.
That's huge.
Yeah, so we're actually in the process of renewing the MOU now, and it culminated with this big resource fair at the Bridgeport DMV, where we had the Unite Us truck that was paying people's arrearages and utilities.
Mm-hmm.
We had the vaccine truck. We had the city of Bridgeport had their health department up there doing screenings for high blood pressure and cholesterol. We had the housing department where, you know, we ended up working with them and getting some vouchers for folks for housing. We had the city library there. We had substance abuse and mental health. So yeah, that worked out pretty well. Hopefully we can do another large resource fair like that again at the Department of Motor Vehicles in Bridgeport. But yeah, so then ARPA funding came, and you know, was able to meet and convene with Mayor Ganem and, you know, advocate for some funding going towards reentry, and they allotted $4.3 million to reentry, and then I, you know, built a kind of group or team to review applications for what people were trying to do, and we gave out the ones I can specifically remember, the large amounts. It was a 3-year award, and we gave out, I want to say, almost like $270,000 to the University of Bridgeport for a reentry entrepreneurship program.
Tell me about that. That sounds incredible.
Yeah. So there is a gentleman by the name of Barry Diamond who has this program called the Pride Program, and he's been grinding for as long as I've been in this space. He's been grinding with no money from anybody. And
that's a fact.
Yeah. He's been grinding, and he, you know, in speaking with, you know, the University of Bridgeport and him being out of Bridgeport and Fairfield, I was like, you know, a good addition to your application should be this guy. And they did that. So basically people are funneled through Barry and his boot camp and the Pride Program. And he has, because Barry's not going to do it forever, but he has a nice gentleman with him by the name of Mr. Martin or King. And they run their reentry boot camp program, and people who are thoroughly immersed in that and succeed in that program are awarded scholarships, or have been awarded scholarships over the last couple of years to the University of Bridgeport, and it's worth quite a few credits. And basically, each scholarship was roughly equivalent to like $18,000 for them to get the credits and getting that certification in that program. So it's like going from the boot camp to entrepreneurship at the University of Bridgeport with that credentialing. We also funded the Welcome Center, which resulted in a partnership between Career Resources and Recovery Network of Programs. So I was looking to have that Welcome Center pilot jump off by 2024, and it went in. It became into the realm of existence by 2021.
Oh wow!
So yeah.
Well, the need's there, so it had to.
The need is always there, yeah. Because people are just getting dropped off, and they're like, "See you later, figure it out."
Right.
You know, or see you soon. You know,
gray sweats in a plastic bag.
Yeah, the plastic bag, gray sweats, the slip-on shoes. Yeah,
figure it out. Especially you max out.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you max out. Whew. It's.
And that's the other thing. People don't understand that there are different releases. Like you got the end of sentence people, you got the people that come out under supervision, you got the pre-release people who nobody cares about. Like, they just, you know, you pre-release, like you be in there, you can be in there a week, you can be in there a year. Like you come out, your whole life blown up, man.
Yeah, so, that fast. Facts.
So
where do you want to see reentry? Whether the city of New Haven, the city of Bridgeport, and New Haven.
New Haven,
yeah. What's your big vision for reentry?
For that, I'd have to go back to Dr. Okaforism, which it would be no entry. That would be it. But outside of that, I would definitely like to see the funding reinvested from the closing of the prisons back into. So if we're closing prisons, which means we have a higher, we have a higher amount of a population of people in reentry back in the community, but there are no resources because the funding from those closures are not necessarily going back into DLC and into agencies out in the community to help with this increased population.
How many of the prisons that closed were privatized?
I don't think any were privatized.
Yeah, I don't think Connecticut has private. That's more like down south.
Yeah. So, but that funding goes back into the general fund, which I guess in a way ostensibly can help in the community, sort of, kind of, but not specifically targeted or focused. So that would be a main goal, is to get that justice reinvestment back into the community and into DLC. Working with those guys and gals over there. Unfortunately, their technology is super antiquated. They need better technology. The inmates have gotten tablets and stuff, so that's something, and that's helpful.
Do they pay for that? The inmates buy them, or do they give them?
They were giving out. It was some type of grant or award or something. Okay. And that process took like forever. They were awarded that. Commissioner Simple was the commissioner when that whole thing was set.
That's the one we met.
And it didn't go until like now. Like we're talking 2 commissioners later that it was able to finally roll out.
Damn.
So
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Damn.
What's the most frustrated you've gotten at this job? What is the thing that you're just like, it shouldn't be that way?
Jeez.
They're about to pull out the list. Like a toilet paper roll.
Yes. I mean, one of the things we already talked about is, more collaboration, less silos. That could be frustrating because in some cases you're duplicating services and you got folks, fighting for the same pot of money and resources to help the same amount of people, so collaboration is definitely key. That call on a Friday that somebody just got released and they have nowhere to go. And it's like 4:00, 4:30. And they're like, can you help them? Like, what?
Damn.
It's 4:30 on a Friday. Help them what? Like, they have no place to go, or they have health issues, so you got continuity of care to figure out. No food, no. And then if you can help them, it's from Friday to Monday. That gives you a little time to figure something out better, but that is like the worst.
So the practical nature and it's interesting because I think a lot of times wouldn't even think about what happens if someone gets out and has nowhere to go with nothing at Friday at 4:30 when everything's shutting down and isn't going to open back up for 3 days.
Right.
And how overlooked that can be.
Right.
And if there was some level of collaboration or communication or connection or common sense or whatever it is, maybe that piece wouldn't take place. Yeah, but it's so easy to get over, kind of just caught in the everyday momentum of the system.
Imagine that during the pandemic.
Right. I can't. I can't.
Yeah. So like I said, the pandemic had its pros and cons. There was a program through, what is it called? Connecticut Coalition to End Homelessness, CCEH. And they got some funding where they were connecting with DLC and then connecting with different providers like Columbus House in the community and finding out who was going to actually be coming out homeless. Because some of the time, the people in there, they just want to get out. So they'll say, oh, yeah, I got a place to go.
Yeah, I got an address.
I got an address. And they don't got a pit, as my mother would say, a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out. And so that was helpful in gaining people's trust and some credibility at that time. But programs like that we need more of. Unfortunately, the funding went out. And so that kind of model just kind of disappeared. So you don't have somebody kind of overseeing that. I know one of the things that the collaborative really would want is like a reentry czar. You know, you got these different positions up at the state capitol that look over all these different things. Reentry, we would love to have a specific personal person that is overseeing reentry, specifically everything.
What prevents that from happening?
Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
That's such a great idea.
yeah, we've been trying to push that. So in like, what was it, 2019, 2018? Somewhere around, I forget the dates. It's just all this stuff. Like even with the clean slate legislation.
Yep.
That had been, you know, I know folks that had been working on that back in 06 and 07. And then, you know, in 2017, you know, Pennsylvania passed it. And then it caught steam in different places, here specifically. It didn't get passed until 2021. And then it didn't really roll out until 2023. Like, and that's been bumpy. But so, you know, just stuff like that. I know we just had a meeting with some folks from DC, the Council of State Governments, and their 2030 reentry initiative. So, you know, hopefully, you know, collaborating with some other states and getting some other eyes in here. You know, Connecticut's been very progressive to some degree, and in some other instances, it's been inert. So, trying to solve that puzzle. To your question of why we don't necessarily have a reentry czar or something like that.
Yeah, it's genius. It's genius. It's necessary.
Mm-hmm.
There's money allocated for reentry.
Mm-hmm.
So why, right? Or a committee or something.
Something.
You would think.
You would think.
That's So I'm going a little.
Go ahead.
For a long time, I would say I'm not big into politics because I
I don't
feel
know
like
how you could be with this gig, man.
yeah. Well, I'm learning. So for a long time, especially in the beginning of this, it was all about the services. I came from Columbus House. I was a manager there, so I was all about the services of the program.
Shout out to my man, Dr. Reynolds, Carl Reynolds over there.
Oh, my brother.
Yeah.
Mentor. We just had dinner with him last week.
Oh, word?
Yeah, we went to Cast Iron.
Love that spot, man.
Bruh.
The popcorn in that pork chop they got, man. Ooh.
Yeah. I get the salmon.
Oh, man, this pork chop they got, it's better than steak over there.
Yeah?
What? Oh, my God. It's crazy. It's crazy.
So I'll eat pork, but that, yeah, man.
Man, that.
So for a long time, I would just have this view of I don't rock with the system from the political, legislative, advocate portion of it. I just want to be in the trenches, and I just want to do the work. I want to be caught up in the red tape.
I recall that feeling.
You know what I'm saying? And I feel like the system isn't broken, it's working.
Exactly the way it was designed to.
You know what I'm saying? So I put my energy over here in the trenches.
People, yeah.
Yeah. That's my joy. That's where I shine. And these last few years, in this role, as we continue to grow winning ways, I realize like the growth has such a low ceiling if I'm not
engaged.
Right. And it's like just hearing just everything you just shared during this conversation and how much bureaucracy is just holding stuff up and just having what you would think would be just a smart move like a reentry SAR committee, whatever. Just one of the many examples you shared. It's just like I gotta take accountability and put in more work when it comes to that part of this whole fight because like at the end of the day it all trickles down back to the people.
It does.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like I've been feeling that way the last couple of months. I've been fighting it because I feel like I don't I want to say lazy, but I just feel like I'm so worked on this side of the nonprofit sector that it's like I don't got time for that.
It's tiring, man.
It's
exhausting,
bro.
Yeah, but at the same time, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about civic engagement. Like my homegirl, my sister Arden Santana, gotta have that civic engagement, that civic awareness, because the people actually have the power. They just don't realize it anymore. They've just become disengaged, disenchanted. And, you know, some of the powers that be appreciate that disenchantment and that lack of knowledge of the constituency. You know, when I was doing the whole, you know, working with my aldermen in our ward, you know, we had roughly like 3,000 eligible voters. We'd be lucky if we get 500 people to vote. That was good.
Wow.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
The people had the power. You know, we would be down there, you know, knocking on doors and working with New Haven Rising, talking to people. Oh, I can't vote. You know, I got a record. Well, are you on parole? Nah. Then you can vote.
Damn.
I'm on probation. I can't. Nah, you can vote if you're on probation.
Yeah.
Like, people just don't know. Like, you see the sidewalks over there is jacked up. You want that fixed so your kids can run up and down and ride their bike? Well, you need to get involved. Get involved with your local, you know, your older people and the mayor. You gotta hold these people accountable. You gotta go to the school board meetings. Like,
there's someone, I ain't gonna say her name, but there's someone in City Hall. Because I had this was when it kind of sparked in me. I had a conversation with her, and same thing I just said, but a little more passion. Like, man, I'm not rocking with that. You feel me? Like, I'm not. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And she was like, you know, if everyone felt like that, it'd be worse out here. Because we need people in there to watch the people in there. So when she told me when she told me that, I never heard it like that. I'm like, damn. Because she said it'd be crazy.
Let me preview to this. So you may not have time, and you may be engaged. Do you watch the news? It's depressing, I know.
Yeah. So but my phone. Yeah.
You get I get alerts. Twitter, whatever. I don't know what the hell that is anymore.
I read a lot. I listen to a lot of podcasts that I think do a much better job showing both sides. I can't do the traditional
mainstream
news.
media.
It's just not news.
No Fox News.
I do watch some Fox News just because I gotta see what some of the people are saying.
Yeah,
but
I can't do CNN. I can't do Fox. It's just like you're gonna get you. I can tell you what they're gonna say before they say it,
absolutely.
And it's just and everything is twisted to alter my consciousness in this fear-provoking way or an inducing way. Yep. And then I take that with me in my everyday life, and it's like when COVID first hit, I was locked into the news, and I was so fucking anxious all the time.
Crazy.
And when I recognized it after like maybe 5 days of it, I'm like, I
got to get off of this.
First of all, I'm read. I kind of know what I can do to protect myself. So let me do what's in my control. Everything else is just going to be in my awareness. And within 2 days of doing that, my life felt totally normal. And I was like, it's the power of what you put in, what you feed yourself is what you see. It's what you feel. It's what you are. Right. And whether it's with knowledge, whether it's with food, whether it's with alcohol or other drugs, whatever it is, it's like what we put in is what we give out and get in return. And I just don't want to inundate myself with fear. It's hard.
I agree with that. But the reason why I bring that up is if you look at getting back to our point about being engaged and what, you know, sparked you having that conversation with somebody at City Hall, is that if you look at it from the partisan standpoint, what they do on one side is they start small. They take over city council. They take over the Board of Education, and then they get the state legislature. Because the presidential vote matters, and your federal senators and state rep matters, but the thing that's going to impact you the most is your city government and your state legislature. And if you're not involved in that, like I tell everybody, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. So
Yeah, it's like
That's a bar.
It is, right? It's like
That's a
social
bar.
media, or it's like any major. It's like, hey, if you are not selling the product, you probably are the product.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Listen, I had this conversation with some kids. Shout out to Wesleyan and Dr. Clifton Watson in their CPE program, the College Prison Education Program. I was talking to one of their classes of kids that were doing internships with nonprofits and stuff like that. And we were just having these long conversations, talking about raising money, and I felt like I was losing them at one point. And I was like, you guys are, and I know it's old now, but I was like, you guys are on Facebook? It's like, yeah, we're on Facebook. You know, I don't really do it that much, but, you know, my aunt's on there now, and, you know, whatever. They're like TikTok and Snapchat or whatever now. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, what's the product on Facebook? I'm like, product? It's free. They're selling something. It's like, no, it's free. I was like, no, it's really not. It was like, well, what's the product? I was like, you are. You're the product.
Human capital.
Human capital. Yeah. All your information.
Yeah.
All of that. All the ads you get. You're the product.
Nothing's
like,
free.
No, they're like,
nothing is free.
they're like,
Especially
what?
in this country.
Oh my God.
Especially in this country.
It's
This
the
is
home of capitalism.
Right. Oh man, I gotta send you the episode of me and him having a conversation about capitalism on with another guest. 21 Tori Hamilton. You know Tori Hamilton? She from Hartford. She was at CP. No, not CP. I'm sorry. She was at Cos.
Yeah, I know Tori. Yeah. I'm not saying I don't know Tori. I know Tori.
Yeah. So we had Tori on here like a year ago, and I'll just that's a whole rabbit hole. But you know what I'm saying? Yeah, capitalism was a interesting conversation.
Listen, me and my boy, you know, we would sit around and have these conversations, and one of the things that a couple of things that we thought we had figured out, but I think one is definitely a truism. It takes all different types of cats to make the world go round, but definitely in this world that we live in here in the United States of America, either you are pimping or you are being pimped. It's one or the other way, and sometimes you know it, and sometimes you don't.
Right.
And you don't know which one you're in. Sometimes you got to figure that out.
Sometimes you both.
Sometimes you're both. Facts.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. That's your thing, Mr. Capitalist.
I don't have the mental capacity to even have this conversation right now. All I know is I don't make the rules, but I try to play by them and I try to capitalize on them. That's as far as it has to go today.
Yeah, I understand it, and I play the game because it's a game.
You have to.
But that doesn't. I don't like the game.
Nah, because there are layers to it. This shit is like 5-dimensional chess, and there's some people on the top that creaming it.
That's
and
right.
they do the least amount of work.
But it's also
What?
It's like saying with everything in everything, there's the two sides of the coin. There's going to be the
three actually sides of the coin.
There's going to be the incredible, right? There's going to be the terrible, and there's going to be the in between. And
the in between is the crazy part.
And that's whether we're looking at it from a capitalistic standpoint, socialistic standpoint, and anywhere in between there, right? There's going to be the goods, there's going to be the negatives, and there's going to be the in between, right? So that is my only.
I mean,
point there.
The funny thing
it's
to
not
me,
all good or all bad.
everybody, well, not everybody, there's a lot of people in America screaming, "Oh, this is socialist. This is socialism." They have no clue what real socialism is. Like,
Yeah, agreed.
and some of these people, you know, you're getting Medicare, Medicaid, or whatever, and you're screaming about end socialism. Like, what? And that's not even real socialism. Like, we don't like.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, that's just not knowing. Like not knowing you can vote if you're not on parole. You know what I mean? Just when you just don't know, you just.
And that law has now since been changed. Now, if you're on parole, you can vote.
Really?
Oh yeah, it got changed. Talk to my man James Jetter. We pushing it.
Damn, look at me. I should know that.
Yeah, if you're on parole, you can vote now. That's been changed.
Because I came home, I was on parole, and it was like, nah, you can't vote.
It just happened. What? That was last year. That got passed last year.
Yeah, because I got off of parole 2017, and I was souped up because I voted. Was it 7?
2020. 2020.
2020 was. No, I voted.
For presidential.
Was 2020?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So was it 20? So okay.
That was dope too. In 2020, we were able to get. So there are folks that are locked up that are eligible to vote, and we were able to get them absentee ballots.
Really?
If you are pretrial, if you're pretrial and you're not at that time, if you were pretrial and you weren't on parole, you just needed access to the ballot. Now it's hella tedious how you get that ballot delivered, and then how you get it back to your city hall or town clerk. But yeah, we got several hundred people.
That's amazing.
Access to the ballot in 2020.
That is amazing.
That's amazing.
That is like
that's so empowering. You know what I mean?
Well, it's you inspired 700, literally inspired 700 people, right? To do exactly what you've been talking about over the past hour, which is you have more power than you think you have, and you can actually make a difference, but you got to show up.
Even from the side.
It's a beautiful thing. I know we're almost out of time for this evening. Was there any other questions that you had?
Well, no other questions. I would just say, like, for anyone listening to this episode that want to like tap in with you and the things you got going on, can you share that?
Yeah. One, I definitely say hit up ctreentry.org. That has a list of all of the reentry roundtables throughout the state. Bridgeport started off with the first one in like 2007, and by 2017 there were like 6, and now we have 10. So we had 10 geographical locations with reentry roundtables. We definitely all want more participation from people with lived experience. There are a lot of agencies that show up, but we definitely want people with lived experience. Those that are closest to the problem or closest to the solution, I've been told. And you can also reach me at gnhrrt@gmail.com. That's Greater New Haven Reentry Roundtable. I'm a co-chair on the Greater New Haven Reentry Roundtable. Also, every other Thursday, this Thursday being one, I work with a group called Hang Time. And we do hang time meeting and fellowship from 6 to 8 at 109 Legion Ave at the Continuum of Care. So if you know somebody that knows somebody, just pull up. Everybody's welcome. We have a good conversation. There's always a meal. So, even if you just come for the meal and you just sit and you don't say anything, you're more than welcome to. Yeah, man, it's just the work never ends. Had a meeting today with the Office of Workforce Strategy and working on a better strategy for employment for reentry. And I'm a chair for the reentry committee, but there are several other chairs. There are chair for folks with disabilities, folks, veterans, people of color, youth, elderly. And not for nothing, what I tell them every time we're in one of these meetings, all of those different sections cover reentry. We got folks that are getting out. The age when I was really getting into this back in like 2014, 2015, the people that were getting out were younger. Currently, the people that are getting out are way older now. The median age of those folks in prison now are, anywhere between 40 and 60, somewhere around there.
Damn.
So you have a lot of older folks that are in prison. And there is the State of Reentry report that was spearheaded by Scott Wilderman and Career Resources. You can look that up online on Career Resources. And basically they focused in on the 10 geographical areas of the reentry roundtables. And it gives a lot of descriptions and demographics of the folks that are being released into the 10 areas. So Bridgeport, New Haven, Stanford, London, Hartford, Waterbury, Wyndham, and there are several others. But like I said, you go to ctreentry.org, you can figure that out. But it tells you all the times of all the different reentry roundtables, where they're located, how to get on their mailing list if you want to be added to their distribution list. So, yeah.
Amazing.
Thank you, brother.
No doubt.
Yeah,
This is a
thank you
great
for coming
conversation,
out
man.
and hanging out. It's awesome. It's really, really appreciated.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
thanks everyone for tuning in.
The Falling Up Podcast.